In a recent show, I talked about how cabin fever is probably setting in for most of us because life as we knew it has definitely changed. But this week reminded me, well, we can still have an adventurous side. Hey, welcome to this Edition Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now, typically subcompacts just don't excite me, but, well, one glance at this vehicle reminded me, well, I could get off the beaten path and try something different. Now, this week's test drive specifically was the all-new 2021 Kia Seltos, and pretty much what I tasked it with was getting me out of the house, all from the safety of the inside of this vehicle, basically delivering nature in a panoramic view. So what we did was drove about 6 hours round trip, able to take in some views from a covered bridge, and at one point did get out and walk the good old proverbial trail. Later on in the week, we did get a little more adventurous. No, we didn't stack some kayaks on top, but actually put some bikes here in the back to go off dirt bike riding and experience some of that as well, because we all know how much I do love nature. One area where the Seltos really delivers is that adventurous look, and you see it from the profile with its overall stance, its ground clearance, and of course the quirky kind of atmosphere. Now, I'm not using that in a negative tone, I just digging it because it's different. When you want to be adventurous, this is the kind of facade you're looking for. If you want status quo, if you want blasé, this is not where you're looking. Now, first off, the exterior color is referred to as star bright yellow, has a two-tone approach, body color all the way around the lower portions, black and roof through here, and no bright chrome to speak of, but again, more of kind of a matte finish when it comes to at the four corners, obviously up there on the rails and down to the door handles. Now, looking at overall size, subcompact normally sends shivers down my 6-foot frame. But what I dig is really what's in the cabin area, but I'll get into that in just a second. It all starts with the overall numbers. First off, length around 172 inches, wheelbase about 103. As for height, about 64 inches, and there's one primary reason why it's so high. That is because of ground clearance, around about 7.3 inches. And that's what I dig, and you can naturally see that this is an adventurous vehicle, mainly because of ground clearance and this insignia right here. All-wheel drive. That pretty much meant if I took it off the beaten path, rest assured it's got grip at the four corners. Lastly, its width, not too shabby, about 71 inches. For this week-long test drive, I really tasked this vehicle with delivering adventure, and pretty much what that meant was get me out of the house. So the first part was that 6-hour round trip that took us about halfway across the state and allowed us to experience, obviously, nature around us, coming across some covered bridges. But the best part was when we took a right turn into a nature preserve, seeing, well, in 4D, the nature firsthand, even ended up at a lily-covered pond. Sometimes being adventurous isn't always about the well laid out plans, but instead about the impromptu-ness. And well, that's what happened the second day. After having all the fun in the mud and the muck in the vehicle, we wanted to do that again, but this time on a traditional bike ride. So instead of staying in the neighborhood with the good old paved roads, well, we wanted to go to a nature trail, and well, this vehicle had to take us there. Now, certainly we could have took the good old bike rack and mounted it to the back, but we wanted to speed things up just a little bit. So we said, well, let's just throw them inside and see how this vehicle handles it, and it did quite well. Now, once you open the hatch, what you're going to first see is around about 26 cubic feet here at the back end. Now, that came in handy later in the week with some good old gardening. Everything was thrown in here with these, and well, obviously you can see it cleaned up quite well. But on the first trip with the bikes, well, it was so simple. First off, we got rid of the tonneau cover. This is a nice rigid solid platform that does rise to the occasion with the hatch, but when you want to do cargo like we did, we just simply remove it and put it off to the side. Now, what you're going to see here when the second row is laid flat is around about 62 cubic feet. What that pretty much meant was our bikes easily slid in here with just a little bit hanging over here on the back end. What that did mean is we did have to take the hatch and tie it down to the underside just so it wouldn't go up as we're going down the road. Now, one Achilles heel that we did notice is when this hatch is open and you are going down the road, well, there's a warning system there on the gauge cluster that kind of reminds you here and there and pretty much all the time. Being adventurous, one thing you do want is some pep in your step. You can't be anemic under the hood, and well, this SX model definitely delivers, specifically a turbocharged 1.6 liter inline 4-cylinder. Now it delivers around about 175 horses and 195 foot-pounds of torque. Now that is coupled to a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. For the week-long adventure, it pretty much was a two-person affair, 2 adults in the front, 4-legged friend here in the back. Now, some things to note when you're carrying your furry friends is to help protect the vehicle. What we did is utilize our canvas-like material that's used for carrying animals. Pretty much acts like a hammock, lays all the way across, couples nicely into the headrest, laying there and allowing the animal to have full run of the back seat, but also collects their hair and all their mess. When you get back, you simply fold it right up, throw it out of the vehicle, and as you can see, the vehicle cleans up quite well. Even better is the safety of the animal. What we utilize is a harness, of course, buckles into the seat, give them a little bed there to lay in, and allows them to be buckled into the vehicle for added safety. Now, some other things to think about is the cargo. Now, I mentioned earlier, laying the seats down allows the bikes to swing in with ease. Really easy to do. Simple handle here on the shoulder, lays it flat. And what I like on this vehicle is one flat floor from back to front. Some subcompacts have a lower cargo area, just making kind of for an uneven service, but here on the Seltos, really nice and flat. Lastly, if you do want to carry more adults, great legroom numbers, around about 41 inches in the front, 38 inches here in the back. Now, looking inside, one thing I didn't expect was this huge oversized screen, nice and split up, giving you multi-views of what's going on. Some vehicles really giving one home screen that doesn't have all the information you see here, right down to navigation, your entertainment, and obviously some up-to-date weather. Below that, really just some simple shortcuts and navigating the entertainment. Nice symmetricness when it comes to the volume and tune select. Now, one thing I have gotten used to as of late is dual zones, pretty much about on every vehicle I've tested, but well, not to be found here on the SX model. Instead, just a single zone. Now, when it comes to controls, you will find an oversized knob for temperature select. As for fan speed, that is in the form of push buttons here. One thing I would prefer is to measure this knobs, pretty much put a fan speed knob here, temperature select over here, just make things nice and simple and balanced. Also, while you're driving, just a little harder to find these push buttons for the fan speed. As for the rest of the operation, pretty much straightforward. Now, if you're looking for connectivity, you will find a nice area to put your phones, USB connections, 2 of them, as well as your traditional power supply. One thing I did expect this area to do is have wireless charging, because it just seems like a nice natural fit, and I kind of was, well, complaining just for about a millisecond, because then I did notice this kind of hidden tray up here and this little illumination here. What that means is, well, this is actually your wireless charging. Put your phone up here, this lets you know it's charging, and pretty much the phone is out of sight, out of mind. Between the front occupants, you will find dual cup holders, pretty much just straightforward, no spongy material to grip the drinks, so they'll slide around just a little bit if they're too small. If they're too big, well, that wasn't the case, because pretty much everything slid in with ease. Now, as for the center console, nice and elevated, giving you good elbow support. As for storage, well, that's pretty much all it is. Nice deep storage. Now, there is no connectivity in here, nor any lighting, so when it gets dark out, you'll just have to fiddle around to find what you're looking for. You do have 3 driving modes, all controlled by this knob right here by the driver's right knee. Just simply toggle it left or right from normal, smart, or sport. The gauge cluster was to be expected, analog, tach, and speedometer, but a huge, nice LCD display there in the middle. Now it does have tons of different displays by simply toggling through there using the control on the steering wheel. One thing I did keep looking for is a nice digital readout for the speed. Just couldn't find it. That was until I saw the little illuminator there beside the analog speedometer, which is your digital readout. One thing I would prefer is for that to be adapted over here, so at least it's a little bigger, but I do like the fact they at least have a digital readout for speed. Now the steering wheel, you have controls for entertainment, and typically this would be the most exciting part because, well, this is what we're going to interact with. But what I found more exciting was on this side, specifically cruise control. And to my amazement, this vehicle did have adaptive cruise control, pretty much meaning you can set the spacing between you and other vehicles, then set the cruise, and it's naturally going to adjust as traffic builds or lessens. Also, what I like is driver assist. Pretty much this will illuminate when this vehicle senses the lanes and allows it to kind of keep you centered. Now naturally you're going to have to interact with it because it's not autonomous, pretty much meaning you need to keep your hand on the steering wheel, but it does help with a little bit of gentle tug here and there. Now this engine is equipped with the auto start, auto stop function, pretty much meaning when you get to a stop sign, the engine will shut off. But what I like on this vehicle is you can turn that off if you want to. Some of the competition is getting rid of this option, pretty much meaning you don't have a choice, but Kia keeps it. So if you don't like the start and stopping, well, just simply turn it off. When it comes to delivering adventure, it's not always about how fast a vehicle can go, how deep a river it can forge, or how much rock crawling can it experience, but simply just getting you out of the house. And well, that's what this vehicle did this week, the good old all-new 2021 Kia Seltos. And pretty much adventure for me meant get me out, show me some nature, and well, get a little dirty. And this vehicle did quite well. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.